Hello, this is Dr. Mercola, and I'm sure most of us would agree that our eyesight is our most valuable sense, and that is the one sense that if we had to give up any, that we would want to give up the least. So our vision is just so crucial to understanding and getting feedback from the world, because it's like, say, over 90% of our input is through our eyes. So of course we want to preserve those, and it's especially important to me because many of you may not be aware, but for the 2 years prior to my starting medical school, I actually worked in the Illinois Eye Bank, and I extracted eyes for transplant, primarily the corneas. And in the mid-70s, prior to my taking that position, that service was primarily performed by ophthalmology residents. So I had really a chance to work with eyes at a very significant level. And I just want to review the eye anatomy for you, because some of you may not be aware of it. But if you remove the eyeball, that's a globe, and it looks something like a ping pong ball, and the surface of the eye is the cornea, and it's actually transparent, and that's if you touch your eye, that's what you're touching, and it's like, kind of like the cover in a watch. And immediately behind that is the lens, but what lays on top of the lens is the iris, or the colored part of your eye, and that lens is responsible for focusing the light onto the back of your eye, which is the retina. And in between the retina and the lens is the aqueous humor, which has no blood vessels in it, so that by passive diffusion it helps to nourish the retina. Now, the retina is really part of your brain, and it really focuses and transports this information back from your optic nerve right into your brain. And because it's part of your brain, it is loaded with polyunsaturated fats, primarily omega-3 fats, and the most important one, of course, being DHA. So if you want to preserve your eye health, it's very important to make sure that you have a high-quality source of animal-based omega-3s. And of course, my favorite is krill. But if your body doesn't have enough of those, it's going to impair your ability to have optimal eye health. Now, one of the most important contributors to eye problems would be oxidant stresses. And an oxidant is typically an oxygen molecule that has an unpaired electron. And our body, of course, produces antioxidants, but of course, it produces them, but we actually consume them through our diet. But one of the most important strategies is to remove yourself from exposures that will produce high oxidant stresses. And one of the most important ones, and I'm sure most people watching this understand and appreciate this, is smoking. So if you're smoking, that's clearly going to be a leading contributor to damaging your eyes. But there's other things, such as your blood sugar and your blood pressure, which can increase the oxidant stresses and lead to damaging your eyes. So you want to get those under control. And of course, there's exposure to chemicals will also contribute to this. So it's important to make sure your body has an adequate supply of antioxidants, and there's a number of different ones that you want to review to make sure that if you value your eyes, that you and your family are getting enough of these. And primarily, antioxidants are divided into two different groups. We have the water-soluble and the fat-soluble antioxidants. And ideally, you're going to need them both. They're both important to maintain optimal eye health. And the water-soluble antioxidants are used in real time, so your body doesn't build up large stores of them. And with respect to the eye, they're particularly useful for the lens because they help support the connective tissue there. And they also help maintain your intraocular pressure. So it's really important that you make sure that you're getting those. And with respect to eye health, probably the most important ones tend to be a class of substances called anthocyanins. And traditionally, if you've studied this at all, you'll know that bilberry has been noted to be extraordinarily useful in this. And bilberry is actually a fruit in Europe, and in America it's called the huckleberry. It looks like a cross between a blueberry and a cranberry. And it became popular for eye health because in World War II, British Royal Air Force pilots noticed that after eating them, especially at night, that they seemed to improve their night vision. So this was the initial observation, then more studies were done, and it seemed to be very beneficial for this. So anthocyanins are really useful, and bilberry is a traditional one. However, the interesting thing is that the newer research shows that another fruit, black currant, is actually a far more effective and higher source and concentration of these anthocyanins. So black currant really is the leader in anthocyanins, in the water-soluble antioxidants for eye health. But the other group of antioxidants which are really important are the fat-soluble antioxidants, and examples of this would be vitamin A, vitamin E, and vitamin D. And the traditional ones in this area are two that are both carotenoids, and these are lutein and zeaxanthin. And these are primarily located in the retina, especially in the macula. So if you don't have these, the strong oxidant effect of sunlight coming through your eyes can damage your eyes, and that's why it's so crucial to have these antioxidants in your eye tissue, especially the retina. So since lutein and zeaxanthin are so important, it would make sense to make sure that you're having enough of the right foods to do that. And really, there's a king of these foods that really has the most lutein of any food that we know of, and that is a vegetable, kale. And kale has, you need about somewhere between 6 and 20 milligrams of lutein a day. And kale has about 25 milligrams, whether it's cooked or uncooked. But some of the newer science shows that if you slightly cook it, you'll actually liberate more of the fat-soluble antioxidants. So that is one component you can use, but you can also juice them and get those too. And typically lutein is associated with zeaxanthin in the food. So the other sources primarily would be the dark green leafy vegetables like spinach and collard greens, and they're relatively high, but in a cooked version, if you ever cook spinach, you know that you have a large amount, and when you cook it, it compresses quite dramatically. So a cooked cup of spinach will have about 20 milligrams, but an uncooked cup of spinach will only have about 2 or 3 milligrams, so not nearly anywhere as much as you would need. So another source of them, and previously I thought that was a relatively high source, would be eggs, especially in the egg yolk. But egg yolks only have about 0.5 milligram of total carotenoids, and of that total carotenoids, about half of that is lutein. So even if you're eating 8 eggs a day, as I do sometimes, you're still only getting about 4 or 5 milligrams of lutein in the egg yolk. So clearly you're going to need the dark green leafy vegetables. Now, another source, and really this is an emerging one, it's not typically a food source, and I believe is the most significant and most profound antioxidants for eye health that's ever been found, is something called astaxanthin. And you might be familiar with astaxanthin because it's in our krill, because krill tend to eat marine phytoplankton or marine algae. And as a result of that, they concentrate this very beneficial carotenoid and astaxanthin. And other animals that would have it would be salmon, which is responsible for giving it its pinkish color or pinkish orange color. So those are the two foods that have it, but typically as a dietary source, it's really not in the food supply so much, aside from krill and salmon. So it's typically taken as a supplement, because to be effective you need about 2 milligrams. In our daily dose of krill, however, there's about 0.5 milligram. So it's a significant source. But interestingly, astaxanthin has been shown to be about 500 times more potent than vitamin E, and it's significantly more potent than lutein. The specific studies haven't been done, but the strong implications that it's far more important than lutein. So these are strategies that you can use if you can get these antioxidants into your food ideally, and then if you have specific concerns and you want to maintain that, is to make sure that you're getting a high quality source of these antioxidants. And we do offer one now. It's for our eye formula, which has all of the antioxidants that I mentioned, and in the appropriate concentrations that the studies have shown them to be powerfully effective at supporting eye health. So if this is a concern for you, I'd strongly recommend it. If it doesn't work for you, for whatever reason, there's a no questions asked lifetime money back guarantee. So that's sort of a reassurance that you don't have to worry if it. So hopefully this information, especially applying the basics of getting those dark green leafy vegetables, will help serve you and your family retain one of the most important senses that we have, which is our eyesight.